Listen to the 48 Hours podcast for shocking murder cases and compelling real-life dramas from one of television's most watched true crime shows. Go behind the scenes of each episode with award-winning CBS News correspondents and producers in Postmortem, a weekly deep dive. Listen to 48 Hours wherever you get your podcasts.
Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, streaming January 25th, only on Netflix.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast. This is Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Central Texas Life. Ann Harder here, and I am just delighted to have Sophia Strother here with us. We've had a chance to visit several times, but I've never been able to visit with your beautiful daughter, Leilani Simone. It is so delightful to have your daughter here, too.
Thank you so much. I'm ecstatic to be able to sit beside her and then sit in a professional stance as well with her. It's just kind of a great full circle for me as mom.
All right. She's your baby.
Yes.
But she's getting ready to go off to college.
Yes.
So this means empty nest?
It does. And you know what's funny?
Yeah,
she's
right.
super excited about it.
She's happy about it.
And I remember telling people a couple years ago, ooh, girl, I can't wait for empty nest. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to be upset. I can't wait. Child, she's been gone most of this summer, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I miss our hugs at night. I miss every night she comes and gives me a hug and kiss goodnight and says, I love you. And now that I don't have that, I said, oh, well, I think I am going to experience empty nest.
Yeah,
nobody to fuss over, make sure it's in school. Like, it is a very different transition.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what sparked, this visit for you and I. Mm-hmm. You're in a kind of a transition in another way. Of course, you've always been so very involved with Juneteenth since 2011.
Yes.
And you weren't going to do it this year, but it happened. But tell us where you are with all that.
Yes, myself and the owner of 94.5 The Beat, we founded Juneteenth Family Fun Day in 2011. And it was really because we wanted the celebration for what African Americans have contributed to the American culture to be big. A lot of other celebrations in Waco were big, and we wanted this one to be big. And when we did it the first year at Heritage Square, we had 4,500 people, and we're like, oh,
crazy.
We're on to something. Like, people really want this level of, national acts and local acts coming in along with resources. And so we moved over to Brazos Park East, and that's where it's been since. And, since 2011, we've done it for 11 years because, of course, COVID, and there was one other year we didn't. But it takes a lot. And I don't think a lot of people realize how much really goes into putting on an event where you have 400 to 5,500 people showing up, normally over 30 vendors, and dealing with potentially over 10 acts, national and local. And it takes a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And so I think for myself at this age as well, I'm really wanting to kind of pass the torch, either to the next generation or to others that have the same level of passion that I've had over the last over 11 years with Empowerment Driven by Knowledge Coalition to host this, and really pivot more into making sure that we have opportunities and access to media and performing arts for people of color. And so I'm really hoping that can be a staple that we can do here in Waco and in Central Texas moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And of course, this has been a passion of yours for a long time.
Yes.
You've been involved with Jubilee Theater
as
an actor, a writer as well.
Yes. So my passion, just working with mission period, Mission Waco.
Oh, yeah.
And then Jubilee Theater came along. And again, my daughter was 5 when this happened. And I was in a play with Stevie Walker Webb and Rashad and several others. And I played a mom who actually lost her husband to suicide, unfortunately. And her son started to sell her drugs to cope. And that was her way of coping. And the irony for me playing that role was very similar to my own mother, who literally lost my father abruptly. It wasn't to suicide, it was to a motor vehicle accident. And she actually just lost it to drugs. And so it was really a parallel for me to do that. I actually got an award for that particular role. But I used to bring my daughter to like every rehearsal. She was sitting there. I was one of those moms, like, I want you to see what I do and participate. And she caught the bug. And from 5, she's been in plays at Jubilee Theater. I would send her every summer. And then it started to be where now she's directing and now she's doing set design, to where it even matriculated when we moved to Austin area, still being very active with creative action and starring in her own supporting role in her first film, Isolated Incidents. And from there, it's just been nonstop, to where we finally got to last year write a movie together called Love You to the Moon that we both acted in together.
How was that?
Leilani, how was that process?
How was that?
We definitely got to learn a lot more about how each other takes the creative process and how to really get it from the ground up, from the writing to the casting. We did our own casting calls. We did like the filming, the directing. We went out to the lodge and we had food for everybody and told all the actors come down. It was really like...
There's a lot involved in that.
It is.
Feeding all those people.
And financially. So we took our own finances and
did you
seeded
have
into it.
GoFundMe thing?
No, literally I took my savings.
And we just did it.
We just did it. It was one of those things where I just felt like, I love Hallmark. I was talking about this with you before. I love Hallmark. Don't get me wrong. I'm a sap like that, especially going into the holidays. But just seeing representation of individuals that look like us, being able to find that one, but then also being, what's the reality that it just ends with a kiss after a weekend? And so we're taking a trilogy approach, to where the first weekend is going out, and Sophia, that's why I play myself to a certain degree, going out there and kind of opening yourself up to even allowing someone to come into that space. But our second movie really deals with the relationship and how it can be complicated when you're someone that's been traumatized, whatever that looks like for you. All of us have gone through, whether it's grief or some sort of trauma or issues or circumstances. And so how we bring that into relationships can be detrimental sometimes, unfortunately. And then the third movie is similar to kind of like the Bridesmaid flow, where any and everything can go wrong. But at the root of it is our actual foundation of love, and how real love, unconditional love, where I have a tagline, real love doesn't hurt, how that can supersede all the circumstances around you, and still you end up coming out with something beautiful. And so we just finished up the first one, and we got a little sizzle reel that will be dropping in a few weeks, and just kind of moving through that process. But for me as a survivor, it was definitely a circle of life for me to be able to pass down to the next generation, my daughter to find her voice and find it in similar ways that I found my own.
Yeah, we've talked before about your story.
Yes.
And what you have survived. To see your daughter, though, go through life without those kinds of challenges has got to be.
And for her to hear me talk about it. Sometimes we have a lot of people that feel like if I don't talk about it, it didn't happen.
Right.
Or if I don't talk about it.
You hear about the World War II parent or grandparent who will not talk about it.
They will not.
What they experience.
And sometimes I feel that's more detrimental than it is good, because now what you're doing is you're harboring some very, very real trauma and tragedies that we know manifest physically. That's why you see a lot of those generation that ended up having high blood pressure, even diabetes, overweight, or dying early from stroke, or they learn to cope with drugs and alcohol and other bad behaviors because they won't deal with those issues. So my daughter has been very next to me. I mean, we've marched in the A121, our fight against modern day slavery just worldwide, because it's not just a U.S. issue, it's a global issue. So again, this is just another way where it's not so dark to talk about something that affects us all. Because I interject actually with my real therapist, Cheryl Alexander. She's in the movie. So like we do there's a session of me just doing, a therapy session to show people it's okay to like have a therapist. Right. And you can be very successful. Most successful people have a therapist on call. Like, so when they're going through, they can, okay, look, Cheryl, this week is no good. I need to get in with you some type of way. And that doesn't show that you're weak. It actually shows courageous strength to be able to be vulnerable, to say, I'm not okay right now, and I need to find some ways that are healthy to work through them.
I would think part of that process also is putting pen to paper.
Yes.
And writing and using the creative process through storytelling to help other people.
Yes, and that's the reason why I really want that to be more of the new lens for me. Again, as I'm entering into my 40s, my energy is more about passion. And in my 20s and 30s, when I did a lot, and I've done a lot of community work, and you've been by my side for most of it. I mean, from American Heart Association and us doing, Rockin' Heart Ranch and our luncheons for Go Red, to now even with me with community with Juneteenth and all different things around that, to disaster relief and things of that nature. I've done a lot of like the footwork on the ground. Now I'm being more strategic on, okay, so how do we implement where I've seen visible gaps in the last 15 years of me doing community work? And that's in representation when it comes to media and performing arts, which is another very strong way to get messaging. And during COVID, that's all you had. All you had was media.
That's true.
And some sort of digital platform to communicate. And that's not going away just because we can come outdoors again and interact. It's still a very vital part of every American's everybody, period, their household for the most part. Everybody has some type of mechanism to get information digitally.
Mm-hmm. Well, Leilani, you have been involved in youth programs for theater and the dramatic arts and so forth. Do you have a favorite experience you had? Like a favorite show? I know when you were in the Austin area as a high schooler, you were continuing to do those kinds of things.
So yes, I've been doing theater for a very, very long time, since I've been 5. So there's very many shows to pick from.
I know. See,
there's so
it's
many
like,
shows
who's your favorite child, Sophia?
Right, literally. My favorite role, I'm gonna have to say, would be Baloo in the Jungle Book. That
she had fun with that one.
The best role I've ever played. It was fun. It was nice. It felt like me. And since then I've of course worked on like more mature projects, like isolated incidents with gun violence in schools. That was also a very hard but fun thing to like navigate. But yeah, we're going to say Jungle Book is going to take the cake.
She danced, and she typically does not like to sing in public, and she had to sing. So I tried to teach her, like...
And it was okay.
Yes, with theater, you can sing talk. So, like, you don't have to be, quote-unquote,
like
a singer.
Like an opera singer or
yes, you can sing talk with personality and play it off. So to see her in the Baloo outfit, like, bouncing around and, singing and talking, and she really... And dancing, like it had all of those elements. She had a blast in that. And then literally the next year, she went into a very serious role with isolated incidents, where she kind of navigated and narrated in that particular film how students reacted to a shooting. It was an active shooting happening in the school.
Wow.
And so each particular room of students showed how they were handling it differently in the midst of an actual shooting event. And at the end, she actually walks out into the hallway to confront the shooter. Really? And it goes black. And so it was just very
dramatic. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Well, and unfortunately, it's a reality. You would think, this would be fantasy, something
and
that Hollywood dream up, but it is not.
It is not.
That's why it was very important to
Oh, yeah.
do the film and get it out there.
Exactly, because you have to think through, what would I do? Going to be starting, though, at Texas State. So
I'm ready.
I already told you.
I'm so ready.
Those beautiful calves of yours will be so shapely. That is the hilliest campus I've ever been on. Trudging up and down those hills. You're going to have a good time there. So tell us what you plan to study.
I am majoring in performance and production and minoring in business. I want to eventually have my own space, my own theater. Kind of do like when you go to the movie theater and you watch a movie and you're sitting on the recliners and they like give you food and like all that, but instead of a projector, it's gonna be us on stage doing plays,
a live show,
getting served, and
Yeah.
So something really cool, something chill, maybe classes, but I'm ready to get the ball rolling.
Yeah. And you're already doing something like that, right, Sophia, for students?
Yes, so we are partnering with Krishan Jones, who, again, I'm just hoping I can get him here to Waco. He's actually doing a one-man play called The Divide, and it's going to really deal with kind of the toxic masculinity that goes into how they have to deal with mental health and depression and things like that. But he also has, along with Boogie Vision, a production company that they go and they do these film and production camps that can last anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. And so I am wanting to have that be an integral part of the Waco scene for sure, given some of the mantra that even Creative Waco has on really getting the arts to them young, facilitating that passion. So students are exposed to how to write, how to direct, how to also do the production and the set and things of that nature. And that's something I told Leilani from a very young age. She wants to be an actress, but I said, you have to know in front and behind the camera. So in between your gigs, you know how to get on a crew set and be able to be a line producer or to be, an assistant director or various other things that in the middle of all your acting projects, you still have work.
Right.
And
you've
that's
got
what we want to do.
And you've got everything that has to be planned out. And then, of course, in films, then you've got continuity.
Yes.
You got to be sure, my hat was on a certain way in that scene. And
because trust me, we watch films now and we're terrible.
I know. You see that.
We will rip, be like, honey, you saw that hat was this way.
I know.
Or he was turned this way. That cup was over here.
Yeah.
We're terrible.
In the corner, we see it all.
Yeah.
Don't slip and let us watch your movie.
So
we will see.
You could be the continuity editor.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I haven't done very limited that kind of thing, though. When you realize just how laborious the process is.
It is.
And you do the scene over and over and over. They reset the camera to get the back of your head so they're showing the person you're talking to.
It's very laborious.
It's interesting, but to learn this at a young age and just to have that passion.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm excited for her.
I know you've got to be proud of her.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we're going to chat some more with Leilani and her beautiful mother, Sophia. And so stay with us. We'll be right back. And we're back with Sophia Strother and her beautiful daughter, Leilani Simone, talking about acting and writing, the creative process, films, all this sort of thing. And of course, Sophia, we've known each other a long time.
Yes.
And you've been so transparent to talk about the heartache in your life through things that happened to you. But just not too long ago, a terrible tragedy occurred, and that was the death of your mom and her husband, your stepfather, and it was in a fire at the Landmark Apartments.
Yes.
And I remember I happened to be driving by and saw there was a reporter there and fire trucks and everything. On it's a bad fire. And then later I learned it was your parents. February
18th. Somewhere between 6:45 and 7 o'clock in the morning, a fire broke out at the apartments. And my mom, I guess she wasn't awakened by the smoke detectors. Nobody was, actually. They weren't going off at the time. But she got out of the apartment through the smoke and then realized that her husband was not out. And so she went back in to get him, to wake him up. He had been in the guest room because he had gotten in late. He worked on cars. He had a shop in North Waco, and he worked on vehicles. And through banging on the door, the neighbor was awoken. So I always say that she saved her life too. She always proclaims that it was my mom's cries that she heard that woke her up. And she was able to get him up, but unfortunately, they just made it to the front door and met their demise at the front door with the door open. And when I tell you those types of details just break you. And
obviously Leilani's having
they just break you.
Yeah,
and you know, more so because most people know my story about I was abused sexually by my father starting at the age of 9. And then when he passed in a tragic fire,
it was a car
accident, but he had a heart attack behind the wheel that went into 12,000 gallons of gasoline that had just been filled at Mobil gas station.
Oh my goodness.
In Springfield, Massachusetts. So he died.
Whether you're a diehard sports fan, a hopeless romantic, or a comedy aficionado, the Xfinity 10G network was made for streaming it all. Worry less about buffering when streaming your favorite shows, movies, or live sports, and enjoy a better way to watch. Xfinity gives you a reliable connection for streaming, plus all the entertainment you love all in one place. Fear not, because now you can finally sit back, relax, and stream your favorite entertainment and sports like never before with the Xfinity 10G network.
Due to the fire of that. And then 30 years later to the year, I literally was on a plane headed to Atlanta and the phone rang while I was in the air. I still to this day don't understand how that happened.
How did that happen? Usually,
but we were still 30 minutes from landing and my phone starts to ring and I ignored it initially. And actually, Leilani was with me there too. That was Essence. Yeah. That was my cousin and my aunt and my husband was there. And the phone rang again. And I said, well, let me, I know people are going to start looking around like they, annoyed because the phone's ringing. And so I finally get it and it was my younger brother. And I'm like, hey, text me, like I'm in the air. I don't even know how you got me because I tried to text you back and it wouldn't work. Right. And he was like, please tell me it's not true. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I just saw a news program and on the news program, it showed Mom's apartment. And it was fire coming out of Mom's apartment where they're saying two people were killed. And I said, well, it's not true. I told him, it's probably not true. Don't worry about it. We'll be fine. I immediately called my uncle who stays here. He works for the VA and he stays here in Waco. And I said, Uncle Keith, I need you to go by and just check. I know for a fact it probably isn't Mom. Because, I'm in denial. But just go check so I can calm, my brother. And he then, by that time, he calls back. We had just landed on the tarmac. And he said, Lil Soph, because her name was Sophia too. He said, Lil Soph, I'm sorry, but your mom's gone. And I let out a wail on that plane that everybody thought, of course, something is probably wrong with me. And I went through one of those outer body experiences. Like, I don't know how I got off the plane. Right. I don't know.
You were in shock.
I mean, I'm going through the airport. People are coming up to me. Are you okay? And I'm just like, like I just couldn't function in that space. Like, it's funny, I didn't realize how much I really loved my mom until this happened. The last 2 years of her life, I say, and I had to do their eulogy. I eulogized both of them in front of me at Carver Park. I remember saying that my message was redemption. God put that on me so tough. About the last 2 years, my mom really going through this redemption journey of hers, of reaching out to me, really apologetic, really wanting to not continue to be alone because I had to distance myself for some time. I allowed my younger brother to be the main conduit. And I said, if anything's wrong, he'll let me know. And I will always be there in that regard. I just need to keep a little distance. But I started to let her in a little bit. She was even at our wedding. We did a very small wedding at the back of my home in October. And she was there with him and they were being them.
They were cutting up.
They were being them. And I was so mad. Because my mom is technically challenged. So she's on her phone. I wish I had my cell phone. Now, let's say that this is me and my husband getting married. This from here to here is all Ulta area. My mom is here with herself. With her cell phone.
Oh no.
So every single picture the photographer has,
She's right there.
she's in. Am I lying, Lay?
No.
She's in every picture. And I spent like 2 months after that being furious with her. Like, I have voicemails where she's like, Sophie, I'm so sorry. You know I love you. And then in hindsight, like when she passed, I went back and started looking at all my pictures, thanking God.
There they are.
She was in every single picture. Like it's, then I was mad at myself that I spent time being mad for her being her. But you never realize those things in hindsight. But it's definitely allowed me to see that I know life is short. My father passed at 39 and, here my mom was 64. I've had other relatives pass young. I had a brother pass at 28. So I know things can happen young. But something about her passing, which to me almost kind of closed a chapter of my life, because so much of the advocacy type of work that I do is around the circumstance she put me in as an adolescent, to where things that I had been putting off, I refuse to put off. Thus, this Learning to Exhale Symposium and Retreat that was put on my heart several years ago to do. I'm finally doing it this October 20th through the 22nd, to really deal with this restoration philosophy about the Fab Five, I call it, where you literally have to take stock and look at and make a plan for the finances in your life, the relationships you have between friends and family and how they affect you, the faith component of your life, whatever that looks like for you. We all believe in something. And how do you navigate that to really lend you towards success, as opposed to being stuck in the past or being entrenched in the circumstance, which is not who you are. It just happens to be where you're at right now. So we'll be dealing with a lot of those, and also some self-care, because I'm doing it at Lakeway Resort and Spa right outside of Austin.
What a nice place. I've been there.
Yes. Yeah. Just very tranquil. You. Yeah. Right off Lake Travis. And, we'll have some, fun activities that we're doing, some great sessions to where, again, people can build their wealth. I talk about the fact that when my grandmother passed when I was 34, I was her full-time caregiver. Within a month, I was homeless because me and her were on a lease, and that landlord let me go because she had passed. And I found myself 6 months later homeless. So really at 35, I was homeless, to where by the time I was 40, I made a decision to invest in myself and now run a multi-million-dollar company, so that it doesn't matter where you're at your life. Resiliency is key, and your attitude really depicts how you're going to pivot out of a situation or a circumstance. And so you're going to learn some valuable tools on that. And I'll be bringing in some of my good friends that have mastered certain fields that they're in to speak on that. And so it should be a great conference, and it's something I need. It's one of those
you'll
conferences.
Learn as well, of course.
Yes, that I was saying. I was just talking to my assistant about the fact that, like, I need this more than anything. But it's definitely from trauma to triumph. And, they'll have a spiritual component to it, but it's not overwhelming because sometimes in people's life, I don't want to hear you praying for me. I need to see tangible.
Yeah.
It's one thing to do that, but there's a scripture that says faith without works is dead.
It's dead, yeah.
So we're going to be dealing with the works during this conference while having a little fun on
Practical
top of that.
tools, it sounds like, for folks.
Yeah, for sure.
That's exciting. And so this is coming up toward the end of October.
Yeah, October 20th through the 22nd, we'll be doing this. And so for those that's not going to be at Formula One, you can come on down to my conference.
And so how can folks sign up for it?
Yeah, so on this Saturday, we go live with registration, and they'll be able to go to my website, sophiastrother.com, and they'll be able to register right on site. And if you want to be a part as far as being a vendor, or if you're interested in speaking or even sponsoring, you can also get a hold of me through that website as well.
Oh, well, that's exciting. All kinds of, you just lead such an interesting life, Sophia, but your faith and your resiliency and your ability to pivot and do what needs to be done, and now to really do those things that satisfy you is wonderful, and it's helping so many people.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. Way. I always say I don't feel God allowed me to live through some of the horrific things that I have for no purpose.
Absolutely.
And so I try to just have purpose. I get the one life. I'm trying to make the most of the dash. I always talk about that dash. Between the beginning and the end is that dash.
And what are you doing in the middle?
What are you doing in the middle?
Which brings me to, and you've done this before, but Leilani hasn't. I like to end these visits with a little questionnaire similar to what the late, great James Lipton did on Inside the Actors Studios. So this, good practice for you. And I'll ask you, Leilani, what is your favorite word?
Supercalifragilistic-expialidocious.
All right, very good. All right. What about your least favorite word?
Okay.
Oh, really? You don't like okay? I've never heard that before from anybody.
Say okay, because it's like, what does that?
It's like it's sort of like,
yeah,
meh.
Right.
It's
right.
It's
meh.
Talk to them.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally? I'm going to ask both of you that. The wheels are turning.
I can tell you what first came to mind to me, and you'll probably think it's ridiculous, but I immediately thought of Hunger Games.
Oh, really?
And I don't know why, but I thought of Hunger Games, but I thought of their symbol catching fire. And the reason I thought of about that is because they were coming out of the fire. And when they came out of the fire, they came out as something very beautiful. Like her costume was always this beautiful gown after the fire flame, hit it. And I just look at my life has been how I have come out of the fire. It's always been, obviously, something happens. And then for me, how can I come out of this fire? How can I come out even, better or more beautiful than before? And so for me, that's what immediately came to mind. That's my turn on. Is like, what is going to come out of this fire?
Yeah, beauty for ashes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't think my answer is going to sound
It doesn't need to.
I don't think my answer is going to sound like that.
Well, okay, let me ask you then, Leilani, what turns you off creatively or spiritually or emotionally?
I'm going to say not having good energy.
Yeah.
I need energy. I need somebody to be able to match, be just as passionate, just as ready to,
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Good. What sound do you love the most? Really?
That's that about to take one.
Oh, I gotcha. Got it.
Yeah, that's that action.
Love that. That's
that
great.
action.
Yeah.
I love how she had to act it out.
Okay,
she didn't describe it.
It's
She
like,
let me just show her. That's the sound. Yes,
that's good. What sound do you hate?
Take this one.
The sound that I hate, because I'm going to start doing it, is sucking of the teeth. And the only reason why I say it is because we're around a lot of West Indian culture. And so West Indian culture, they suck their teeth for everything.
Really?
And so like we just got back from Jamaica. And again, from the East Coast, when I lived up there, I had the accent and everything. What's that going on? Like I was everything, right? All of that.
Just absorb it.
Everything's Irie. And so when we went to Jamaica, I came back sucking my teeth every day.
Okay, demonstrate. I got it. What do you mean?
It like everything. Like I just
You
did.
just did that.
But like if you're in traffic, like everything is a sucking of the teeth. And so I have to be detoxed out of the sucking of the teeth.
Oh, well,
whenever
that's
I come
interesting.
back.
I learned something new.
Yes.
What other profession would you like to have tried? I mean, I know what you aspire to do. Is there anything outside? Did you always want to be a nurse when you were a little girl? I mean, something like that.
My plan B was anesthesiologist.
Oh, okay.
She wanted medical.
Okay.
My plan B was to be a television host. Like
all right, there you go.
Always.
You should have been.
I want to be I wanted to be like an Anthony Bourdain, like travel and eat and experience culture, but from my eyes.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like culturally where your background and your heritage is makes a big difference how you receive new culture and food.
Right.
And so I've always wanted to do that.
Wow,
there still might be time for me yet, but yes.
Do you know what you would never want to do? Thank you very much, but no.
Yes, I do know I would never want to work in New York City underneath the subway rails where they have to bat away the rats and they deal with sanitation. That is not, it's a very much needed job.
Somebody has to do it.
I don't want to be that one. I give them so much props that they deal down with sanitation and the rats underneath the city. Right. Don't want to do it.
Anything you wouldn't want to do?
That sounded great. That sounded perfect.
She's not going to also want to do anything in agriculture or outside because allergies. Yeah, she can't do anything where you have to breathe in outdoor air. So for her,
it's a little bit of a hothouse flower.
Yeah. Okay. She's indoor, even though her name stands for Heavenly Flower in Hawaiian. She doesn't actually want to be out with the heavenly flowers.
I want to be with the potted plants.
Right.
Yeah, I grow the plumeria that they make
out of,
in Hawaii. But we do our gardening early in the day.
Yes.
Finally, what do you want to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Well done, my good and faithful servant. You may enter now. Your house is down the street to the right. Miss the gold. It's a little pearl rhinestone on the top. Like, that's what I need to hear. That's what I want. That's it. Good done.
Well,
good and done.
You are doing well now. I will say thank you both so much. You're just delightful, you, Sophia and Leilani. It's great to have you on the show today. Thank you both so much, and thank you for being with us for Central Texas Life. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Central Texas Life with Ann Harder is part of the Rogue Media family. Be sure to check out our other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate this show 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Life with Ann Harder. This has been a Rogue Media Network